Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
Welcome to episode 69 of the Terrible Book Club.
Nice.
I'm an interrupted Paris, and this is Chris.
Hi. I had to get it in. I'm sorry.
Jesus. This time, appropriately, we read The Haunted Vagina by Carlton Mellick III.
A distinguished man, let me tell you.
Yes. So if this is your first time listening to the show, that was probably a hell of an opening. What we do here at the Terrible Book Club is we read books that we assume will be bad based on their cover, title, summary, or some combination of those. So we read books that we would never read under normal circumstances. Usually this results in a disappointing and hilarious read, but once in a while we end up liking the book. So this time, we read a book recommended by my friend Carol. So thank you for the recommendation, Carol. I think this one has actually only been in the queue since December. So hey, look at that. Sometimes we do get to things before the 2-year mark.
It can happen.
So The Haunted Vagina was published in 2006 by Avant Punk Books / Eraserhead Press. And it is considered part of the Bizarro fiction genre. So these things aren't written to be intentionally bad, but they certainly are intentionally strange. So there are, I mean, Chris, if you want to flip to the back of the book and read some of the other Bizarro titles that are listed in the back there's some
in the front too. There's front and back Bizarre titles.
Yeah,
but I'll start with the back first since you asked so nicely. We have Meat Puppet Cabaret. The Greatest Fucking Moment in Sports, The Troublesome Amputee, Tales from the Vinegar Wasteland, Suicide Girls in the Afterlife, and let's go to the front now for some more, because I thought these are the other books by Carlton Mellick III here, like Satan Burger, Electric Jesus Corpse, separate book, Sunset with a Beard, Razor Wire Pubic Hair, Teeth and Tongue Landscape, The Steel Breakfast Era, steel as in metal, if that makes a difference to you. The next one is The Baby Jesus Butt Plug.
Yeah, seems to be a theme here.
Fishy Fleshed.
Oh, God.
The Menstruating Mall.
Oh, God, you know what, Chris?
Ocean of Lard.
Are you done?
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, good. Can you know what, just hand me that book. I want to talk about content warnings, but you know, before, actually, there seems to be an inscription here. Through me is the way to the city of woe. Through me is the way to eternal pain. Through me is the way to a lost people. Justice moved my great creator. Divine power made me. The supreme wisdom and the primal love. Before me, nothing else was created. Nothing but the eternal. And I last eternally. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Oh, jeez. All right, we're getting fucking Dante up in here and heading on through the gates of hell.
Where was that? I don't even know where that was.
You see, Chris, just like the Haunted Vagina, is actually a gate to another dimension. It's a gate to hell, which is where we are in the content warnings.
Yeah.
So, so in addition to our usual barnyard language, there's just a whole lot of graphic sex to talk about and macabre things happening in conjunction with that sex. And there's also a shit ton of extreme body horror. Like, this shit is not... Don't fucking listen to this episode if you are squeamish.
Paris, you call it body horror. I guarantee you that the intent here was not to cause horror.
Well, we can, you know what? Let's read the summary and then we can talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
So once again, fucking turn back now if this is your warning.
Listen, guys, there's some stuff that happens.
Yeah, so, all right, here's the summary for The Haunted Vagina. It's difficult to love a woman whose vagina is a gateway to the world of the dead.
Yep.
Steve is madly in love with his eccentric girlfriend, Stacy. Unfortunately, their sex life has been suffering as of late because Steve is worried about the odd noises that have been coming from Stacy's pubic region. She says that her vagina is haunted. She doesn't think it's that big of a deal. Steve, on the other hand, completely disagrees. When a living corpse climbs out of her during an awkward night of sex, Stacy learns that her vagina is actually a doorway to another world. She persuades Steve to climb inside of her to explore this strange new place, but once inside, Steve finds it difficult to return, especially once he meets an oddly attractive woman named Fig, who lives within the lonely haunted world between Stacy's legs. A very strange and surprisingly touching love story, despite the deliberately asinine premise. With subtle humor, surreal erotica, and some genuinely creepy moments, The Haunted Vagina is a completely unique reading experience. You know, I agree with that last clause.
I completely agree. You know what? Honestly, he's selling it like it should be sold.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's pretty upfront there with what you're getting into. Real simple characters. So we've got Steve, Stacy, Steve's girlfriend, Fig, a creature that lives inside of Stacy's
womb world is what I like to call it.
Yeah, microverse womb world. And then we've got some skeletons who are actually called Zephrins in the womb world. And this is a short one. This was a generous 110 pages. I honestly feel like it was maybe 25, like real formatted, or like 50 maybe. So it's short and I won't say sweet, but it's brief.
It's a flavor for sure. Well, actually, what would you describe the flavor of this book?
Chris, I don't like.
It's like a licorice, like bitter.
No, it's like a durian.
Okay, yeah.
Those things smell fucking horrible, but when you eat them, you're like, oh, that was all right.
Yeah.
Like,
actually, yeah. You know, at first glance, it looks like this is going to be the worst thing that I've ever done to myself. And then when you're like kind of midway through it, you're like, yeah, actually, this could have been worse.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I'm glad that we both feel that way because I was like, wow, I can't believe that I'm finding something redeeming in this because I thought it was just going to be a total shit show.
Turns out it's not bad. Like,
yeah, like it truly is unlike anything I've ever read because naturally, like, it's super weird, but it's strangely competent. And it's strangely competent in a, I don't know, it uses very simple prose, but it's really effective in a lot of ways. So I don't know, Chris, I don't know if you have any good lines that you might want to read now, or maybe we can get to it later, but...
So, there's kind of two halves to this book. There's, like, the setup for Steve finding out about Stacy. You know what? Let's just start at the beginning before I really get into any prose, because I feel like we should establish some general plot things before I just start reading a random page out of this book, because it'll get real weird real quick if I just pick at random and start. So, it starts out with Steve and Stacy meeting at a bus stop, and they decide to just be cuddle buddies that night.
They meet on a bus.
Oh, on the bus. I thought it was the bus. Yeah,
they fall asleep on each other on the bus, I believe.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, that was all right. How about if we slept together tonight? And Stacy's like, okay. And they do that for like 3 weeks before anything else happens. They don't even talk to each other or anything after.
They don't know each other's names or anything. It's weird. And this is actually the part of the book that I really hated, was the beginning of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So immediately it just sets up like, oh, that's how we met, and now we're boyfriend and girlfriend. We moved in together, and this is how I finally discovered that my girlfriend's vagina is haunted because she's always heard voices coming from it. And that's about all that Stacy and Steve... Well, no, Stacy has experienced some things before when she was a younger child, but as far as Steve knows, there's just some voices or weird sounds in there. But then, after they get down to business one night, and it's explicitly... the whole scene is done all the way through from start to finish.
Yeah, it's real.
No tea left out.
Yeah, I don't think we need to read the graphic porn section of the book, so we can skip that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I guess, to get you started for this, right?
Yeah, honestly, I wondered about the inclusion of that, because it's like, no one's getting off to this, right? Like,
Oh, Paris, absolutely.
Oh, god damn it.
Paris, absolutely. There's like 3 different fetishes happening at the same time in this book.
All right, well, you're gonna have to explain those fetishes to me.
Latex, vore, and domination, maybe?
Oh, okay, domination, I see. Latex? Oh, later on. Okay, what the fuck is vore?
It's when you're swallowed by someone. Depends on if you're talking about soft vore or hard vore. Soft vore is just being swallowed whole and left otherwise able to get back out. Hard vore is literally being chewed up in the process. I don't know if there's a distinction for specifically being swallowed into a stomach versus being swallowed up inside of a person. I believe they're both forms of vore, though.
All right, yeah, you're right about that. Those are definitely things that are happening. So, yeah, one time
after they get down to the business, a skeleton meat man climbs out of Stacy's vagina. Like, that's what happens.
A skeleton.
There's no other.
Yep, just happens.
Didn't it have like some organs and stuff too?
No, it was just kind of covered in like ichor or something, you know.
Okay. Yeah, well, so the whole thing climbs out of there, obviously defying every law of physics there ever was.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is creepy. And then they leave it on the floor after Steve dispatches of it, and it just kind of starts melting.
Yeah, he hit it over the head with something, and it started, just disintegrating. And Stacy was obviously really upset. Like, Stacy and Steve are both like, all right, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty upsetting... Imagine... No, don't.
Yeah, let's not imagine that happening. So they're despondent. There's skeleton goo all over their apartment. So they're like, you know what? Let's go get a beer. Yeah. So they go to a brewery that used to be a school, I guess, got turned into a brewery. And, at this point in the book, somehow the brewery having a guest room is more surprising to me than the skeleton that just crawled out of this lady's vagina. I'm like, a brewery with a guest room? Fucking sign me up. Like, get me there. Where
just get plastered and fall asleep.
Yeah. So they go to a brewery that has like guest rooms. So I mean, I guess it could just be a hotel with a bar, but it's described as a brewery with a guest room, which I guess
primarily a brewery before any sleeping area.
So they get a room.
I'm assuming this is like a percentage of the space kind of a thing. Like it's 60% brewery, 40% room. So technically you have to call it a brewery.
Yeah, I don't know, but that was wild. I was like, fuck, I need this. Like, where can I go to this? Anyway, they get a room, they get wicked drunk, and then eventually they end up talking. She tells him kind of the more involved backstory behind her vagina having voices. She's like, well, it hasn't always just been voices. When I was really little, there was a little girl that came out of me and was my playmate and my friend. And she would go back in, like, after we were done playing or whatever. And she was like, I thought it was a ghost. And he was like, okay, well, that's a little different than just sounds. And also, that's not a skeleton. So there's a lot going on in this vagina. And so like, they eventually decide, Stacey's like, no, I want you to go explore in there. And he's just like, I don't know, dude, that sounds like a fucking bad idea. And she's like, nah, do it. I need someone, I need to know what's going on in there. Like,
if you loved me, you would do this.
If you loved me, you will crawl into my vagina and fight the skeletons.
Yeah, tall order.
Which is now a sound clip of me that exists.
Yeah. So yeah, like, like, this is the thing about this book, like, the characters, for as simple as they need to be, because honestly, we do really need to clip through all of this. There's no reason to linger.
No.
Like, Steve is, like, they're reasonable characters and there's reasonable reactions most of the time, where Steve is like, no, I don't want to do that. That sounds bad. And she's doing it by, like, she's literally holding herself open the size of it's described as a basketball-sized hole. So it's a scene for sure.
Well, yeah, and I mean, honestly, I would be terrified to be Steve. I can't believe he even does this eventually. And I don't know, I have
just needed a little bit of emotional blackmail.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, Stacey seems like she kind of sucks a little bit. Like, I don't know, she doesn't seem that great.
No.
Yeah, she seems a little abusive.
Convinces him to go in there with the "if you love me, you'll do it" thing. And then at first, when it doesn't work, she just shaves his head so he's more aerodynamic.
And greases him up and gets him gets him naked, greases him up, shaves his head, and forces him to go back in. And you know,
Also, she's masturbating the whole time.
Yeah,
just so
right.
just so you know.
Yeah, which just makes it even like, hey man, I thought this was like an exploration mission. Now you're masturbating. You're making it harder for me to fucking do this. Like, Jesus Christ. So he finally actually gets through.
Yeah,
and he does discover that, there is a gateway eventually once you go far enough. And he determines that the further you go into the vaginal canal, the smaller you become. So there's like a...
No, she determines that later.
Oh, sorry. So there's like a graduated mini-verse happening here, where I believe the entrance to the uterus is the womb world, the other dimension.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like a pocket dimension in D&D.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a bag of holding, but it's a vagina of holding.
Yeah, it's a vagina of holding. Yeah. I mean, and I had to think about it this way because otherwise I don't know. I don't know if I could have gotten through this. So,
already the initial just getting your head in there when it's already not small is kind of a tall ask, so
yeah, seriously.
There's some other Bizarro stuff happening here.
Yeah, like, suddenly every sexual problem I've ever had in my life seems totally insignificant after reading this chapter on the entry into the
Yeah, you didn't try to convince someone to climb inside all the way, I think.
Yep. Yeah, and I've never had somebody be like, hey, you want to crawl into this hole in my body? It's a little haunted. I need you to check it out.
Anyway,
I need you to go fucking spelunking inside of me.
Steve falls into a world that has, like, a weird blue-purple kind of sky. And there's, like, an ending to the fleshy part that turns into the regular world part. There's a cliff, and he, like, walks a little ways in, figures out that it's going to be tough to get back up because he has to, like, try to find something. He finds a building, like, an abandoned lodge.
Totally naked, right? Like, this first time he got in there, he doesn't have any supplies.
Yeah, so he finds this abandoned lodge in there, and there's some supplies and, like, an axe that he uses to climb back up the cliff and back out again. And
overalls.
Yes.
And it's at this point where he sees some skeletons just kind of hanging around, like living skeletons. Man, living skeletons again. We can't escape. It truly is October. And he has the thought, my best defense if I run into anything will be to run away. And at that moment, I thought, Steve might be one of the smartest protagonists we've ever read. Yep,
absolutely. He's like, I do have this weapon, but the best chance of me finding anything in here, I'd better just fucking run away. Yeah. Which completely, once again, reasonably written characters.
Yeah. And then the next 3 pages, I have, oh god, it's that fucking graveyard at the beginning of Dark Souls. Yeah, we're just in Dark Souls now. Because he gets chased by a bunch of fucking skeletons up the cliff.
Yep. And he climbs back out, and Stacy is like, after he gets all out of there and I guess cleaned off, I suppose, he goes to work for a little bit, and then he comes back to find she has just got a bunch of supplies for him, and she's like, you're going back in, you're gonna document it all. And I don't know about you, Paris, but if I crawled inside someone, there was a pocket dimension on the other side with living skeletons in it, there's no way you could make me go back. There's no way you could make me go back.
Yeah, I was really surprised that he went back.
Because he goes back.
Goes back. Fully armored with, like, video recording equipment and I think some food or something.
He's got an energy bar and some water.
Yeah, so he treats this like a day hike, into the womb world. Has a couple of things, a couple of supplies, some clothing, some recording equipment. And
he's got a gun, too. She got a gun for him
Oh, right.
somehow.
He does have a gun. And he comes upon this creature. It's a female-looking biped, but her whole body is, like, very latexy. This is where the latex fetish comes in that we discussed earlier. And she's got these, like, curved back horns, kind of. And I think she has, pink eyes and pink hair.
Yeah.
She's white with some pink splotches on her skin. And, he talks to her, and she speaks English, but in a strange way. She sounds weird.
Yeah, here, how about I just read chapter 34 right here? Because let me tell you, the chapters are literally like a page and a half, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know why it's broken up into chapters anyway. Continue.
Chapter 34. She takes me out into the street. There's a rock, she says to me, pointing at a tiny pebble in the road like I'd be interested. He's dumb. Home is better, she says. We walk further up the hill. Fig keeps talking to me in her creaky voice about the stupidest things. I fell down there, she says, pointing at a patch of dirt. That's mean, she says, pointing at a stick in the road. Those are funny, she says, pointing at a mushroom patch. I just walk with her, watching her unnatural footsteps and bouncy latex flesh. She looks like she could be Stacy's age, but seems pretty young. Early 20s. Maybe it's just her personality that makes her seem younger. She doesn't seem to need clothing. Her red feet don't get hurt against the ground. Her skin doesn't shiver when the wind picks up. She doesn't even seem to have nipples or pubic hair to hide. I take another picture of her. Do you remember someone named Stacy? I ask her, interrupting something about the different names she has for each cloud in the sky. She says, Stacy says I don't exist. You weren't friends when you were kids? I ask. Stacy's not my friend, she says, pouting. We continue up the road. The wrought iron houses become normal houses. I pause to take another picture. The black metal stops halfway through the homes here. One half is wooden and perfectly constructed. The other half is distorted and black. I point at the black and ask the girl, what is that? That's the cancer, she says. Cancer? I ask. It took everyone away, she says. There's a chapter for you.
Yeah, so basically this is where the book gets interesting and kind of captivating. Because once you get past that, like, graphic sex, weird social interactions, a skeleton crawling out of a vagina, a guy crawling into a vagina, like, once he gets into the womb world, it sort of becomes this, I don't know, fairy tale?
It's like a
and it's
super weird Bizarro fairy tale with like this really weird unnerving setting, which like I guess gets the job done, right?
Yeah,
like
sort of like a sci-fi fairy tale, horror fairy tale.
Slash trapped inside a CGI early 90s computer game kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really weird for me to have compliments about this book, but I guess I do.
I would like he's trying to be unnerving about this weird ass world, and that's how I felt, and he did a good job with it.
Yeah, I gotta say so the simple prose and the latter ideas in the book are actually pretty effective. Yeah, I found myself like interested in this world. I feel like I forgot pretty quickly that we were inside of a vagina, right? Like, yeah. And
except the part where Stacy cheats on Steve and a flood of cum comes and washes so many things away.
Yeah, we should talk about the rest of the story. So
yeah,
Fig
we should.
and Steve, Steve, Fig is like, we're gonna play, and Steve's like, yeah, whatever. So she takes him on this tour of, the mini-verse here, and that was the part that Chris read, actually, where they're walking through, and the first part of the kind of living area village, I guess, is all fucked up, and it's all this, like, these structures that have been melted and kind of turned into black metal, and that's what she said was the cancer. And I'm not sure if that's real cancer or
like
if that
real
was some kind
uterus cancer, maybe.
Could have been. Also, maybe could have been a metaphor for something.
It doesn't really go anywhere.
No, it doesn't go anywhere, and I didn't really think about it much until you had reread that passage to me. But and then finally they get to the intact part of the village with other people who are similar to Fig. They're maybe differently colored, but they all kind of have that same latexy weirdness about them. Nobody else really speaks English, though. And she's like, we're going to have dinner with my family. And he's like, okay. And they sit down to dinner, but dinner is just them, like, playing with yarn?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a concept of
They don't need
food?
to eat.
Yeah, they don't need to eat, so that's weird. So he was, like, hoping for food, but there's nothing. And then eventually, Steve's like, all right, I gotta go. And she's like, no, you're not going. And he's like, no, I gotta go. It's cool. And he tries to leave, but she sicks the skeletons, the Zephrins, on him, and they fucking throw him in a hole.
Yep. It's a mine shaft with a rubbery, bouncy bottom.
Yep. And he is just kind of stuck in this weird prison. And after, I don't know, what is it, a few days, weeks? I guess he has no sense of time, right? This world doesn't have, like, a setting sun or anything.
Nope.
he's just like, oh well, at least I'm technically next to Stacy, because he's in this pit or whatever. And eventually, and I didn't see this twist coming. I don't know if you did, Chris. But after some time, excuse me, after some time, he starts turning into one of these creatures. So he starts getting the latexy flesh, and his voice changes, and he doesn't need to eat anymore, and all this stuff. And once he's done transforming, Fig finds him and gets him out, and they, and then they kind of, I don't know, start seeing each other.
Yeah,
in the world, and
not much else to do, I guess.
Yeah, and he's really happy with Fig and falls in love with her, and they are going to start a family, I guess. And I don't remember when the cum flood happens.
It's a little bit like just after she pulls him out of the pit, and after he's turned into this otherworldly being.
Yeah.
It happens after that, and everyone is like, yay, it happened. Yay, the thing that we wanted to happen happened.
Yeah, and Steve's like, I can't believe she fucking cheated on me. So Stacy not only cheated on him, but also got pregnant.
Immediately. Just immediately.
Very fertile woman. I don't know. The time was right. And so I guess the village wanted this pregnancy because I think it means that they get to live on in the next womb.
I guess.
Was what I gathered.
Yeah.
So they want their host woman to become pregnant with a female child so that they can move into the new womb.
Yeah, I guess Steve just figured out that, or assumed that you get subsumed into the new person that's in there, and if it's a girl, maybe you can get out in 18 years. I don't know why it has to be 18 years if,
I think it was just because he knew that the child would be under Stacy's control until it was 18 legally.
Oh, all right. Well.
Right. Yeah, and so, after months go by, he is randomly able to get a radio signal because he had a radio with him, and does talk to Stacy, and Stacy's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was just so distraught that you were gone, and I had sex with a random guy, and
kind of fucked up, man. I gotta say,
yeah, dude, and he was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm in love now, Fig is really cool, and my life is awesome. And Stacy's like, yeah, I guess. And it's just, I don't know, it's actually really sad.
Yeah.
But then Steve is like, yeah, actually Stacy was kind of a fucking bitch. She sucked. This is way better. And I was like, you go, Steve.
I mean,
you go.
I guess if that, if you're fine with it, then cool, man. It doesn't seem like there's much to do in there except wait to get cummed on. But play with yard. I don't know,
yeah, it's pretty weird, but he was saying that I guess he was saying he feels like it was true love because these creatures that live in this world, they only mate with the right person when that person turns into the species, or I don't know. There was some half-ass explanation tacked on at the end there about true rubber people love, I guess.
True latexy love.
True latex love. And yeah, so he lives happily ever after in the mini Wombverse, and Stacy has to live with her terrible life decisions of forcing someone to go into her womb miniverse and then getting impregnated by a rando.
Maybe he stuck around.
I don't know.
Probably not. You know what? Honestly, if Stacy even began to explain her backstory, I think I would run away as fast as I could, even if she said she was pregnant, which normally I wouldn't do.
I will say, this book definitely had a twist in it that I didn't expect. I did not expect Steve to transform into a creature and, end his life happily ever after in this weird kind of fairy tale world. I just figured it was going to be really weird and graphic and like violent for the rest of it, just like it was the beginning, but then it wasn't.
No, the only graphic point was that one sex scene, which, like I said, is pretty much designed, I think, just to get the juices going or something.
Oh God, why would you use that phrase? Anyway, yeah, you got to get that skeleton out of there, right? Got to get the juices flowing.
Yeah,
But somehow this book did manage to make pregnancy more terrifying than it already is to me. And it's like, pregnancy is like one of the most terrifying things.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds... I guess there is that body horror element that we talked... So, we mentioned before body horror versus jerk-off material. And there's definitely a crossing of those two streams here. But I think the latexy part is supposed to be arousing?
Is it supposed to be? I don't know. Probably.
Maybe?
I mean, I don't really know any, I don't have that particular fetish, so I have no idea.
I definitely know there's some people that
I thought you were going to say, I definitely do. And I'll be like,
no.
Learning something new. It's another thing new.
I know we've talked many a time about some things I might enjoy on this podcast. That's not one of them. Much like I also don't get the idea of like, hey, let me crawl inside you as being a thing.
Yeah, that's horrifying. I'm all set.
So, I mean, like I said, I'm sure there was people, if they read that, reading this would be like, finally, this man understands. But I don't know how much of it is supposed to be horrifying versus arousing.
Well, I think maybe that does seem to be sort of the hallmark of this Bizarro genre, is merging sex and horror and all kinds of graphic shit into a narrative that, most people normally wouldn't touch. So it's definitely a genre that I would not willingly stumble into again. I'll say that. But yeah, there is something strangely compelling about the latter part of this book, and that sort of, the sort of weird fairy. Like, if this had been a story about a guy, I don't know, like...
If he didn't have to crawl in there through a woman.
Right, if he didn't have to get to the weird universe through an actual vagina, I think I really would have enjoyed it. Like, if the vagina part was something else, if it was like, I don't know, he fell into a fucking porta potty, or like he fell into, I don't know, like somehow that's less horrifying, or like if he just... So, I mean, really, I guess the other point I'm trying to make here is that despite the fact that this story is part of this Bizarro fiction genre, it's honestly not... The main elements are not that different from any other kind of sort of dimension hopping fantasy or fairy
it's
tale.
just how you get there is
particularly odd. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess this book does get some points for fucking originality. And I was impressed by how effective the writing was at times. Chris, I don't know if you have anything else earmarked, like a section or phrase or sentence.
The only other thing I have to mention that I forgot to mention while we were talking about they had that skeleton that came out and they just like kind of left it on the floor disintegrating. Mm-hmm. They never cleaned that up.
No.
Why would you never? They just drape a jacket over it and like walk around. What is wrong with you people? That's
Chris,
the most disturbing thing in the whole book.
You know what? These characters are not really your average redeemable folks. They seem kind of...
Did the guy who Stacy cheated on Steve with have to walk around the zombie goo and just be like, I don't know what that is, but I'm about to get laid, so whatever?
Probably. I mean, that's...
God in heaven.
Yeah. So I wouldn't recommend this book.
Yeah, that's
for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, like you asked me as I was coming home from work today, because we're recording this immediately after I came home from work.
It's fucking late. This is a sleepy ass terrible book club, let me tell you.
You said, hey, can you find a good passage to maybe read while you're coming home? And the thought of me having to pull this book out of my bag on a fairly packed late night train, honestly, like someone would have seen the cover, man. So I just waited until I got home and flipped to a random chapter and been like, yeah, that's fine, and decided.
Yeah, like I'm not saying this is great, but I will say this shit seemed like it was edited and seemed like there was care put into the writing. more so than a lot of other things we've read on
Right,
the show.
that's kind of the hysterical part about this whole thing.
That fucking blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, this is competent.
Once you get in the womb world, it's just like this really weird surrealist story, which if you're into that, it's here. It's fine if you like that.
Yeah, so I guess
Could we fix it? Is there anything to fix? I guess just the entry point, right? Yeah. But I mean, like, even then, there's something to it. Honestly, I think if you left out the graphic sex part.
Yeah, like, for me, the absurdist setting and the graphic sex right at the beginning are both really hard to overcome. But I feel like you're rewarded if you kind of, like, push on through.
And then, like, kind of...
I didn't mean...
It kind of does make the most sense that way, I guess. Because if, like, you're going to have someone crawl in another human being, there's probably going to be some sexy stuff on the way there.
Well, not necessarily, right? Like, this could have taken place
it's like
in a hospital.
It's an OBGYN.
Yeah. Like, I could have gone in for my annual physical like I did yesterday, and, maybe my doctor was like, hey, you got some voices coming out of there. I gotta check that out. And they're like, you know what? Don't worry, just lean back. We have a team on hand for this. And then, like, in files,
actually, it would be way
team.
Better if there was a hospital like they had a vagina spelunking team on hand in this hospital. That would have been way better.
Yeah, like it's just a totally, like, it's one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, you'll be totally fine. This is a routine procedure. It's not common, but it's not rare. You may not have heard of it, but we had got this under control. And you're just like, all
HIPAA.
Right,
you don't want to violate HIPAA. People have their privacy, please.
Right. And so it's just that, and that's how the story starts. Like, that could have been fine.
Actually, I kind of like that intro way more.
Yeah, like, it could have been. I don't know, like, someone could have accidentally got sucked into it in a pool. Like, I don't know, it could have been...
like, there's, like, the vacuum effect when, like, she stands too wide or something.
Yeah, I don't know, or, like, some kind of sporting accident. Like...
Now we're just coming up with all the ways that you could land inside a vagina. Jumped off a roof too high and someone was walking by.
Exactly. Sporting accident. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, man, I don't know. You could be going for what's the thing where you run with the big stick and then you propel yourself over a thing?
A pole vault?
Yes. Yeah, right. Pole vault gone wrong.
How did a pole vault get erased from your memory?
Chris, like I said, this is the fucking terribly sleepy book club tonight.
Now I'm just thinking about the pole vaulter just completely overshooting and somehow landing in the stands where someone had their legs wide open.
No, the opposite, Chris. The pole vaulter themselves is the one with the cavernous womb verse, and they land in the audience and just whoop.
They tore their Vaulton shorts on the way out.
Yeah, it was a really serious overshoot.
I like that we had a completely reverse idea of who was going inside.
All right, let's come up with some other ways this could happen. Apparently there is a multitude that don't involve graphic sex.
The old slip on a banana peel, of course.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the classic one, if we just want to get right into it, if you just really need a way in there.
What if the person with the mini womb verse, they're wearing a short skirt, they bend over to tie their shoe, and someone walking behind them isn't paying attention. Oh, God! Oh, oh no, I'm never going to get to work on time now. Oh, Jesus.
That person, there's the extra pervy element of she wasn't wearing underwear because that's who she is. And
yeah, sure.
That's how you get your sexy angle in there to make it extra weird.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm going with OBGYN SWAT team as my favorite method of entry.
Yeah,
honestly. I don't think I can top that.
No, I think that's my favorite too. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, all those, sure, but yeah, or like it could have even started with like, we were having sex and I was hearing voices and I thought someone was hiding under the bed or in the closet. But, then she revealed to me that it was her vagina, and I didn't need the gross graphic sex element, but I think that's just part of this genre, and I understand that some people are fine with that or into it or whatever. I just, I also, like me, I don't want love or sex in my stories. Get them the fuck out of here. If you've listened to the show before, you've heard my rants on these subjects.
I don't mind some love here or there, but just treat it as a very, like, on the way to another thing, because we've all talked so much about how great it is to be, like, that story has been attempted so many times. Just shine a light on something else about being a human, please.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, again, not my favorite thing, like, for the reasons we just said, but, I mean, it was fine, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to describe, but there is something strangely compelling about the latter half of this book.
Honestly, like, the other thing is, like, it's sold as exactly as it should. If you're looking at, like, a lot of the material back here, especially, like, the other books and, like, the way the blurbs are given here. Here's one: dead bitch army. Step into a world filled with racist teenagers, cannibals, 100 warped Uncle Sams, automobiles with razor-sharp teeth, living graffiti, and a pissed-off zombie bitch out for revenge. 344 pages. Like, yeah, fine. You're just getting straight to the point with it. There's a thing here where you can, like, subscribe to the Avant Punk Book Club, and it says, "Oh, you tired of, like, trying to hunt these books down? You can subscribe for $55, and you can get these things sent to your home before their release dates. No more waiting, no more hassle. Just razor wire butt plugs all year round."
Yes, that's the best ad I've ever heard.
Right? Like, they know exactly what they're doing here, and it's well done for what they're trying to do. Bravo.
Yeah, I kind of like, in a sea of fucking romance novels and fantasy books and vampire books and all this other shit we read all the time, I feel like all of those things are always like, oh man, this is like the most critically acclaimed. This is going to be the best romance you'll ever read. These people are just so amazing and perfect and blah. But books like this, I don't know, it's a lot more real, certainly. For one, you know, like Chris just pointed out, you know exactly what you're getting into. They don't mince words about what is getting discussed. It's very to the point. And they don't make any claims about these books being amazing or the best, or these characters being fabulous and gorgeous and perfect and blah blah blah.
It's just like, hey, you want some weird shit? Here's some weird shit.
Right. So there's no pretense, and that I can certainly respect about, like, this book and the genre. I will say the cover is fucking horrible, though. Jesus Christ.
So it's the graphic design. It's like there's three things happen. The middle is like sort of a stripe down the middle of like a weird blue sky and a CGI looking computer lady that's supposed to be fake, and just like the most awful CGI skeleton, like 90s video game level skeleton hand reaching for her leg. And I'm guessing the background is supposed to be vagina walls, right? Like, that's what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the inside cover says it was some artist on DeviantArt, and also keep in mind this was published in 2006, so computer graphics that most people had access to. You can do a lot
better with Poser nowadays than whatever's happening on this.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
that's the cover is actually probably the worst part.
Yeah, I mean, the cover and the title are the things that really made me, like, I remember when Carol was telling me about this, I feel like she told me about this at our New Year's Eve party at Heavy Metal House. I think that's when she told me about it. It might have been at a different party here, but I think it was New Year's Eve. And I remember her saying, "I've got a book for you. It's called The Haunted Vagina," and I, like, almost choked on a piece of fucking cheese. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And then
you're always mid-cheese, aren't you, Paris?
I mean, fairly often I'm mid-cheese.
I'm frequently mid-cheese, too, so this is not a put-down.
I mean, dude, cheese, I love cheese too much. I can't not. Give me all your sharp cheddars. Give me all of them. The sharpest of your cheddars. Give me cheddar that rips my mouth open.
If you're at a party with Paris, she's probably got some cheese nearby.
Yeah, right. You want to find me at a party? Find the cheese.
Yeah.
Or find, the cheese. Yeah, that's pretty much
just
it.
Find just the cheese.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I feel so basic.
Oh, well, sometimes good things are well loved for a reason, Paris. That you don't have to just be contrarian all the time.
No, I'm not.
If you're being counterculture, write a weird book about a haunted vagina and don't put up any pretense about it. That's how you do it.
I guess, like, the most surprising thing about this is that is that there are redeeming qualities to this book.
All right. 1
Like,
to 10.
holy shit.
Rate it. 1 to 10.
No,
Rate it.
I hate doing this on the spot.
Just
I
got it.
refuse.
Okay.
You're gonna give
is
it a
there
5,
another scale,
like you
that we
always
could-
do.
What? No, I'm giving this a 6.5.
I love how you just picked the next number and then a half
Yeah.
because you didn't know what else to say.
No, I mean, it's so quick and like in it. I read this in 45 minutes before I had work.
Were
today.
you gonna say the Haunted Vagina was in and out, Chris?
Oh yes, it was. It was a quick in and out with this one.
Oh God, there's just no avoiding it.
So I just sat in the office at my job and I read this, and I showed up an hour early and I just sat and read it for 45 minutes, and then taught people how to play music for 7 hours after consuming this. So I had a weird vibe all day, is what I'm saying.
So while you're like, all right, kids, play fucking She's Coming Around the Mountain, you were like, oh God.
Just trying to internally process what just happened.
Yeah, I mean, and this is episode 69. Honestly, I was working on the schedule for this year earlier in the year, in like February or January or something, and I was like, episode 68, the Haunted Vagina, and then I was like, no, and I just moved it down one because, it's the Halloween spooky month. It's the Haunted Vagina. Why not be fucking, speaking of being fucking basic, whatever. We try to have fun on the show. It's a hobby, we have a good time.
All right. Well, we've got one last spooky thing coming up for listeners.
Do we want to tell people at least the special thing about the episode, or what?
Yes, definitely, because I think the last couple times that happened, those were like extra good episodes for us.
Yeah, so guess what? The Antiques Freaks are coming back for episode
Antiques
70.
Freaks coming back.
Pew, pew,
And
pew, pew,
this
pew,
time, it's
pew.
once again, they always select the book for us when they show up. And this time was an interesting one because it's a movie novelization of a movie I never even heard of until I got this book.
Yeah. So Dee and Ken are going to be on to talk about that book with us. They also already have a companion episode on their podcast about the movie itself. So, we'll be giving you all that information. If you're a listener of both shows, then you may already know what we'll be reading. Actually, maybe not, because they've done a couple of movie episodes at this point. But in any case, we are super excited to have them back, especially for a Halloween episode. So get ready to learn some shit next time.
You will all be hearing that while I am jet-setting away in Japan at the end of the month. So,
yeah, that's right, Chris. Tell the people.
We're going to be recording that one a few days early so I can get it edited and out the door before I head to Japan on the 23rd for a week, and I come back on the 30th right before Halloween, so I'm going to be properly jet-lagged for that holiday. So that is your chance to spook me real good, I suppose.
Yeah, so you're going to spend Halloween asleep.
Yeah, essentially. I plan on eating as much ramen as possible, checking out all the used music instrument stores that are a 10-minute walk away from my hotel, and going the other direction 10 minutes down the road where the hugest collection of collectibles and gaming stuff is located, probably, because Tokyo is a goddamn huge city. It's like 6 cities in one.
Yeah, I've never been to Japan, so I have no idea.
Tokyo is literally the largest metropolitan area in the world. Period.
Huh.
There's 6 cities that make up Tokyo separately.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Huh. All right.
So I've always called myself a city mouse by all means. So this is the true test of that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you and Adam have a great time. I hope you enjoy your 36 hours of travel.
Oh yeah, 15-hour flights.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna be reading mad terrible books. I got a couple queued up, I think.
Yeah. So we'll be fucking ready to go to record for November when you get back. I think otherwise we've got another Terriblo's Torture about to go up on the Patreon, so that's exciting for any of y'all at the $5 or $10 level. You'll have another video segment from us. Let's see what else. Oh, and then we're also going to watch the film that is related to the book that we're doing for the next episode, so that'll also be up on the Patreon. Probably not by the time this episode airs, but maybe soon after. We'll see. Yeah. Certainly in time for the episode about that movie book movie.
Most definitely, because we're going to get that done before I leave as well.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think we have any other announcements, really.
Nope, that's about it. This one's going to be on slightly shorter side, but, shorter book means shorter episode.
Yeah, so once again, thanks to Carol for recommending this. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks to our Patreon supporters, Dari, Greg, Will, Veronica, Dee, Jared, Lynn, Sinna, Jakob, Torben, aka Duck King, Bobby Blackcat, Ayame, Jensina, Mayo Cat, and Elliot. If you too want to help support the show, you can head over to patreon.com/join/terriblebookclub to become a patron. At the $5 a month level or higher, you can enjoy special video segments and download audio tracks where Chris and I watch movies or TV show companions to books we've read on the podcast. We've watched everything from Maradonia movie to the Left Behind movie. We watched the second season of the OA, all kinds of fun stuff on there. There's tons of content. If you cannot or do not want to become a patron, you can listen to Terrible Book Club on the Radio Public app. By listening on that app specifically, you help passively generate income for the show. Every time you play an episode on the app, we get 2 cents, and we also get an extra $1 bonus if you listen to 3 episodes in a row. So if you want to just download that app, it's free. You can listen to 3 episodes and then just delete it. Great, you gave us $1. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. You can share episodes and links to the show on social media or just tell your friends about it. And finally, you can always leave us a review on iTunes or whatever platform you choose. Those reviews help people feel more comfortable giving the show a shot, so that's cool. If you're active in any, sort of like communities on social media, it's cool to post us in there if it's relevant. Like if you're in some book groups on Reddit or Facebook or something, like, cool to let people know in those venues. And remember that we enjoy interacting with you. So if you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, or you can send an email to terriblebookclub@gmail.com.
All right. Is that the whole spiel?
Yeah, I think that's it for this week. Are we gonna talk to y'all again before Halloween? Yeah, I think we will. Okay, so I won't wish you a spooky ween or anything yet, but good luck getting your what?
We wish you a spooky weener. We wish you a spooky weener. We wish you a spooky weener
and a
haunted
costume.
vagina.
Oh God, guys, I gotta work in the morning. I'm out of my mind.
I have to wake up, go to my guitar lesson where I'm being taught by someone, and then go teach other people for 7 hours, and then come back here and do another TBC related thing immediately after. So I'm just repeating my days here. It's Groundhog Day for me.
The haunted vagina. The haunted groundhog?
Yeah.
The haunted groundhog vagina. That's
terrible book loop.
Sometimes I feel like we are in a terrible book loop. Like we can never escape.
Oh, yeah.
This is it forever.
Oh,
never.
God.
Never.
And ever.
Never.
And ever.
Never.
And ever. Bye, Paris.
Bye, Chris.